Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Ari Talks About Music. I'm Ari, and today I'll be reviewing the new Wolf Alice album, The Clearing. The Clearing is the fourth album from the English indie rock band Wolf Alice, who in recent memory have proven themselves to be quite a force to be reckoned with. Since their debut, My Love Is Cool, in 2015, they have gone on what I truly believe to be one of, if not the best three-album run of the last 10 years. And so, as small as their discography has been up until this point, the sheer consistency of it will always get me excited when they have a new album on the way. And so I am glad and more than anything relieved to hear that on their fourth album they are still mostly on form, with the majority of the songs on this project in a way just being classic Wolf Alice, with there being various different callbacks and references to previous songs, as well as just a lot of that style still bleeding through into this album. But there are also still plenty of moments in there that show their ability to evolve and try new things, but also still managing to stay true to their typical sound. I also think that this is by far their most theatrical album yet, which is a style that comes through pretty much immediately on the opening song Thorns, which is still just a classic Wolf Alice sounding song, but with just a little bit more of a theatrical flair than they are typically known for. I absolutely love the very big atmosphere with all the string arrangements on this song. Of course, the absolutely incredible vocals as usual from Ellie Roselle. I definitely think it's understandable that Bloom Baby Bloom was chosen as the lead single for this album, just given how catchy and infectious it can be. I love the incredibly punchy piano as well, which is consistently, I think, one of my favourite aspects of the whole project. But I do also love on this song how, despite the piano playing such an incredible riff, it's eventually taken over by a guitar in quite a good transition. And of course, you have the chorus, which is just such a brilliant moment on this track with the very epic vocals, and especially towards the end with how much power she's singing with. And then going into the bridge, I think that she really starts to display her incredible diversity as a vocalist, going from the chorus with such insane intensity and power into the bridge where she goes very much calmer and more ethereal kind of style to her voice. Just Two Girls is a pretty good low-key pop rock song, however, it doesn't really stand out to me all that much. The piano is still, of course, a really good feature, and this song I think does get better as it goes, because as forgettable as I do find it to be for its first half, just the way that the vocals get increasingly more passionate as well as the incredible guitar solo at the end, all at least make this song end on a high note if nothing else. Leaning Against the Wall is just a nice simple acoustic guitar based song. It does have a good atmosphere and all around pretty good performances, but again there's just something about it that just doesn't make it all that memorable to me. I will say though that the guitar playing in some moments is absolutely fantastic. I just really like the way you have some of these licks and inflections used in some of the common moments. Passenger Seat to an extent does kind of feel like a pretty basic pop rock song, however it does still manage to have that extra Wolf Alice flair that I think just drags it away from being too basic. I think once again Ellie's vocals are absolutely at their best on this track, and just all around the performances from every single member of the band are absolutely killer. Play It Out I think has to be absolutely one of my favourite moments on this project. Again with that incredible piano opening the song as well as this really nice intimate atmosphere, and even though throughout the progression of the track it never really seems to leave that kind of vibe behind, I do love the way that Ellie Roselle's vocals slowly just get more intense and passionate as the song progresses, but the overall feel of the song still manages to remain so calm and soft for pretty much the whole thing. I think that the second half of the track is so incredibly satisfying with the way that layers are being slowly built, particularly with the percussion and the backing vocals just giving the track so much more of a backbone. And despite both of those aspects being very simple, they still manage to add so much to the overall atmosphere. Bread, Butter, Tea, Sugar is an absolutely incredible and very epic song, not only managing to sound so much like classic Wolf Alice, but at the same time being one of the most unique tracks on the project. The bass line I think is absolutely one of the best on the album, having this amazing groove with its slight distortion, and just overall the way it progresses, adding all these little layers and so many things that just do a great job of pulling their weight. Overall just absolutely make this one of my favourite cuts from the whole project. Safe in the World is a song that while I do somewhat appreciate it for its simplicity, I think it's just a little bit too simple to the point where it does again become quite forgettable. On paper the song is still perfectly fine just in terms of its writing, performances, production, etc. But on the whole, I think that the song just has so few distinguishing features, and it does end up feeling mostly like it's just a filler track. The Midnight Song, I think, is just a pretty cool callback to the song The 0 Hour from their album Visions of a Life, both obviously in terms of the title and also just the way that the song sounds. I love the song that it's a callback to, as well as this song also just being incredible itself. The very simple arrangements with just vocals and acoustic guitar for most of the song, I think sounds amazing. And despite the fact that there are a handful of other tracks on this album that have a similar arrangement, I think that this one still does a fantastic job at not letting it get forgettable. Not only just with the incredible atmosphere and how interesting they're able to make the song with just basically two instruments for most of it, but also just towards the end of the track when you have these absolutely fantastic string arrangements that are just so amazing and epic and add so much depth to the song's sound. White Horses then does keep the acoustic guitar theme going, but this time in a much more upbeat way and with drummer Joel Amy on vocals. I overall just love how fun this track feels, with this almost kind of sassy tone in his voice until Ellie Roselle takes over on vocals for the chorus, where she proceeds to give one of the absolute best vocal performances not only of this entire album, but I think genuinely in the entire Wolf Alice discography, being some of the most passionate and simultaneously some of the most dreamy vocals I've ever heard her give. And so overall, this is just one of the absolute best songs on the album in my opinion. Not only, of course, from the incredible vocal performances from both people involved, but just with how fun it can be at times as well. And then you have The Sofa, which I think is overall a pretty strong ending to the album. Again, just with that super smooth piano, but this time with a kind of sense of mystery in the way it's being played. I also love the way it builds, which I think consistently is something that Wolf Alice are very good at, which is just having very satisfying climaxes, and this song is absolutely no exception. Just with the very epic and emotive string arrangements that are on show towards the end of the track. I do absolutely love the overall direction that Wolf Alice are taking their sound with this album, with it still being undeniably their sound, but just with that extra little theatrical flair, which is not really a style they've ever explored all that much. And so this kind of evolution is exactly the kind of thing I'm so glad to hear them doing. And while there are just a handful of songs in the tracklist of this album that drag it down just that little bit, I think that on the whole, their evolution is something I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on over their next few albums, and which is why I'll be giving this album a 7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this review. Please be sure to listen to this album yourself and tell me your thoughts below. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and please leave a dislike if you didn't like the video, and remember to stay hydrated.